and welcome to another episode of the Marco Podcast,
a show dedicated to the realness of organization and entrepreneurship. This space was created for every woman who needs motivation or inspiration to get organized and to keep going after her dream. I'm your host, Angel J. Sit back and prepare for valuable tips, resources, laugh, and much more. If this is your first time here, welcome, and thanks for joining. If you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back, and I hope you brought a friend. Hello, everyone. Back to another episode. Today is part 2 of Balancing Health and Business with Amy Wilson. So if you have not listened to part 1, go ahead and stop right here and go back to last week's episode on the 31st and listen to part 1, and then come back over here, listen to part 2. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. On your guest form, you mentioned how to run a business and grow a business without using Instagram or social media. And I know me, speaking for myself here, and so many other small business owners and entrepreneurs that I see posting, and they're like, I hate social media, but I have a business and I have to run it. So please tell us, how can we grow our business without the use of Instagram?
Okay, so understand that Instagram is a tool and it is not going to define your success. And I know that's hard. It is hard because we see, oh my gosh, they have 30,000, 100,000, 1 million followers. Okay, but do they have relationships with their people? Not really. And a lot of people on Instagram want the shiny and the new. Their attention span is so short. They're just flipping through. And just because you have followers doesn't mean equal growth. Now, is it going to help some people? Yeah, it does. And yes, but don't beat yourself up. And I was doing that too, because I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was putting so much emphasis into reels, so much emphasis into what I posted, and just feeling defeated when maybe one person likes my stuff, or one person shares, or my reel gets less than 100 views. Really? Okay, right. You put all this time and effort into the and you just want to cry. You can leverage Instagram, but you need to have other avenues. So whether that is a website, for me, it's going on podcasts, and it could be your Facebook, it could be advertising. But understand that Instagram is a platform that you can use as a supplement, but not the end all be all. And when you kind of let that go and you use your other platforms and let that funnel into Instagram, it becomes so much better. Like, I will use my podcasts and create reels from that, or something. Actually, I'm not somebody who's very creative, so that's why I'm very scientific minded. Yeah. So it's like, so I'm not going to have those little cutesy videos all the time. If I get creative, I'll make one. But don't feel like that's where you have to get the business, because that's not necessarily true. There are so many other avenues, webinars, podcasts, your blogs, so many other things that you can do besides Instagram. Should you have a presence on Instagram if it's part of your business plan that you just want to have cohesiveness? Like, my Instagram is very similar to my LinkedIn, it's similar to my Facebook. So if somebody goes to my website and says, oh, I want to see what she's doing here, my messaging is the same.
Okay.
So understanding that branding needs to be, the branding needs to be the same. The other thing, if you're using Instagram and you're using it for all your family pictures plus your business, that's not going to help you. Make sure that you're using it just for business purposes, so that when someone comes over from your website or something, that they're seeing the same message. And then hopefully they'll start doing, like I was saying, a deep dive into all your stuff, but it's not just Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, and I was like that as well when I first started my business. I'm like, people are like, oh, you need to do reels and you need to do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do reels. Like, you want me to add all this other stuff on top of what it is that I'm already trying to do or that I'm doing. And I don't have time to sit here and create reels and edit reels and all this. And I think I just made my first reel like maybe a month and a half ago or something like that. And I used a template. And even still, then I was like, this is a lot. Like,
yeah. And my niche is, you always say, who's your niche? Well, it's someone who's like you. My niche is a midlife woman who hates social media. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And they love podcasts. They love doing deep dives and they love conversation. Well, I'm not going to be able to have a conversation in a 15-second reel.
Not at all. And so that's what, like you said, like, I like the podcasts and I like connecting with people because, and it's so much, again, it's so much more personal because let's say that, for instance, if I just found you on Instagram and I started following you and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. She's cool. I follow her on Instagram. I may have sent you a message and been like, oh, hey, I love what you do. You may or may not have responded to that message. And so we never made that connection. But by sitting here and talking, we're actually making a connection with each other. And so I think I talked about that at some point in time, that the connections, like, they're there, but they're not real connections unless you're able to actually connect like we're connecting and have a conversation outside of social media.
I'll say I do. If someone messages me on Instagram, it's me who's messaging you back. But there are VAs, virtual assistants. There
Yes.
are programs, something called ManyChat, where it's automated. And depending on what you say, that's what the automation is. And so you're losing, especially as a nutrition coach, especially as a pharmacist who deals with people with diabetes, prediabetes, midlife issues, there is a human connection that has to occur. And I want a human. I want someone helping me walk through. I just don't want your templates. I want you helping me with what I have to do. If
Right.
I'm coaching, if I have a coach, I want them to call me on my BS. I want them to call me out, not just here's a module, go do it, or here, watch this reel. And I think
realize that, because like I said, I was like, okay, I took all this time to make and create this content. Nobody liked it. Nobody shared it. Like, nobody commented on it, or it only got one like. And
your heart's broken.
Yeah, your heart's broken. It's like, well, I took, 20 minutes to make that or to come up with that and to think about it. And it's so frustrating. And then I stopped posting on Instagram for a while. And then finally I was like, I'm creating all this content and that's not where I'm making my connections at. That's not where people are coming from. It's coming from word of mouth and actually talking to people. So I was like, okay, if I post on there, I post on there. If I don't, I don't. So
yeah, and if you really want the long form video, then do YouTube. And I have a YouTube channel it's growing slow, but it's growing. And that's another thing that you can use that content, which I do, and use it on Instagram. There's a thing called Get Munched, GETMUNCH. It will take video and make reels for you.
right.
And it's amazing that it uses AI. AI is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It uses AI and it'll make these, it'll say how many seconds do you want? Do you want this for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? What do you want it for? And I always hate saying work smarter, not harder, but that's one thing that you can do. If you are someone who talks well, then look at Mel Roberts. All she does is talk in front of their camera and people like. So there is an audience for that. And right. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to post this and then walk away. And don't worry about the followers. Don't worry about the likes. If somebody connects, they connect.
Yep.
But don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And that's honestly the point that I'm at now. I'm like, if they connect. Like this morning, I've been like lately on Instagram for some reason, I don't know, I felt like doing like these random lives or whatever. And so this morning I did like a random live. And I think I said in there, I was like, I don't even know if anybody's going to watch this, but I felt like doing it. So here I am. I'm doing it. Yeah, I showed up because
I've seen your live, so I've watched.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm like, I felt like doing it. I'm doing it. Not because someone told me to do it, but because I wanted to do it in that moment. I felt like that was what was needed. And whoever needs to see it, they'll see it. But thank you so much for watching my lives. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So you talked about like connecting on podcasts. So how should someone pitch themselves to be on podcasts?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about what you need to have before you pitch yourself to a podcast. You need to have, because probably the angel's going to ask me, how can people find you? How can they connect with you? If you have no place for people to connect with you, then you're like, because I could give you my Instagram, you're not going to be able to find it. You're not. And you're going to have some place that people can find you, whether it's an email address, whether it's a website, something that people are going to be able to connect with you. And then if they connect with you, what do you want them to connect you with? Are you looking at them as a possible client, or are you looking at them as somebody that maybe they can help you? So you want to have all your background stuff done first before you start getting on podcasts. Once you have that, and it's just it's kind of like a template of it's your picture, it's your bio. You read my bio. That was off my one sheet.
Yes.
And then it may have like maybe 10 topics that you can discuss. I've seen some really, you know, like how they say resumes don't put everything on there.
Right.
It's the same thing. The one sheet, the cleaner, the better. And you can always update your one sheet, but less is more in this case. Don't make it so busy, because most people are in the digital world. They're pulling something up and they don't want like, oh, I have to blow this up to see what all this tiny writing is.
Right.
Make it concise, make it kind of exciting. Why should they have you? And then the other thing is that a lot of times people will be like, if they're on Facebook or however you connect with people, they're going to say, well, why should I have you? And have that, you know, maybe a couple second elevator pitch. What makes you different? What makes you that you're able to talk? And a lot of people are like, well, I just don't know what to do. And I would say have a quality microphone, because that makes a difference too. You get better. Know that my first couple podcasts that I was on, oh boy. Oh man. I call my dress rehearsal.
Right. It's like, can we get a dry run through before we do this, please? We're just going live.
You get better. You'll listen to some words. You're like, oh, why do I say that word all the time? Like, I'll say absolutely a lot, or awesome. Are you someone who does all the time, or do you have filler words? And I'll be honest, I do. Sometimes my brain thinks ahead of time, but that's being real too. I never want to sound like it's scripted. But that your talking points, how you come across, gets better with each and every podcast. And that's why I say with the YouTube channel, now I'm so used to talking all the time that I can make a YouTube video in a matter of minutes. If I have a topic, I just go off and start making a YouTube. And you get more confident at it. Just like anything. If you go out and start running a marathon tomorrow, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do all that because you didn't train. Every day you train a little bit more and you get better and better. It's the same thing with podcasts. You'll get better. Just know that I pitch myself probably to maybe 5 to 10 podcasts a week. And sometimes I hear back right away. Sometimes I don't hear back at all. And then sometimes I will hear back 3 to 4 weeks later. And understand, I won't say you have to thick skin. Just don't take it personally when you may not be a fit. It may not be a fit right now. And always show up. I've heard so many issues of people booking and the guest doesn't show. If they and also I've had some hosts not show. That's been rare, but it's happened a couple times. If you book or are booked, put it in your calendar or put in your whatever you have to know that you have this podcast whenever it is, because it may not be next week that you are booking. It may be in months. Like I just booked one today that's not until January.
Okay.
So It's in the calendar. I have a spreadsheet that I use with the link so I know which platform we're going to be doing recording on. And it's just being professional. If you are an entrepreneur, your reputation is everything, especially for a solopreneur. Your reputation is everything. And I've been on podcasts that someone heard and said, I want you on as a guest. And you never know. And don't go in thinking that you need to hold all the secrets close and tight. It's like, well, I'm just going to wait until they're a client. No.
That's how you get your clients.
That's how you get your clients, is that
Right.
You're honest and you're trying to develop that relationship as seeing what you get is what you get. So if you sign up with me, this is what you get. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to talk with you. I am your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also going to call you on some things and give you some tough love. And I would say know your talking points, know what you're going to do. And like I said, it just takes practice. And it might be just that, get with a friend and have them start asking you questions. And I think podcasts, I always say, is my superpower because I just like to talk.
Yeah. So. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I love to talk. And like you touched on so many like just great bits of information. So in my business that I do, it's actually like public relations education. And, you said that like you are your business, And that's like something I tell people is like people think, oh, because I'm a solopreneur or I'm a small business, I don't have a brand, I don't have an image. Well, you are like you're Amy Wilson, the nutrition coach. Like that's who you are. You're not just Amy Wilson. So if you don't show up to something, it's, oh, well, the nutrition coach pharmacist, she didn't show up to that.
Right.
Like, it's not just Amy didn't show up. And so you're putting yourself out there as, as being that person that's flaky or that's not showing up. And the podcasting world is small because,
It
as you
is.
said, somebody's heard you on another podcast and like, oh, hey, I want you. I've done that with somebody that I did a podcast interview with. I was like listening to their podcast and I was like, oh, hey, I was like, I want you on. Can you put me in contact with some of the guests that were on your podcast? Because I would love to like have them on my podcast. And so she put them on there. And then as I'm going through and like listening to podcasts of other people that I've been on, and I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, this person's going to be a guest on my podcast, or oh, this person, or I had this person as a guest on my podcast, and now they're on this one. So it's really small, and people talk. And then something else that I want to touch on when you're talking about like showing up and stuff like that. And also because I think we found each other in a podcasting group. And so there's a lot of podcast groups out there. Please, 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 if someone is posting that they need a guest, read what they need a guest for.
Yeah.
Please read what they need a guest for. And so, true story, I am like raw and honest on my podcast. Like, I'm going to tell the truth. So before I posted about needing a guest, I posted on there about being a guest. And so I was talking about me, like I was pitching myself to be a guest. And this lady comments and she's like, do you accept authors? And so, I don't want to be rude or anything. And I commented back and I was like, yeah, I have in the past. And she's like, but do you still accept them? And I was like, okay, you can fill out my guest form. Like, my post isn't about somebody else pitching to me. This is me trying to pitch myself. And so she filled out the form and like, she couldn't answer any of the questions on the form. Like everything was like, why do you want to be on the podcast? To promote my book. What can you offer? What can you offer my audience? I don't know yet. I'll tell you after we record the episode. Like everything was just, and I was like, okay. So then a couple weeks later, when I put the post out saying that I was looking for guests, I put a clear description of what I was looking for, like what I wanted in, a podcast guest. And this same lady comments on it. And she's like, do you accept authors? And I'm like, ma'am, one, we talked because you sent me the guest form and I responded back to you and told you that you weren't a fit for my show. Two, obviously you're not reading what I'm asking for here because it clearly tells you what I'm looking for. So just make sure that you're reading and following
and
the
not
instructions.
only that, listen to a podcast before you pitch because it may not be a good fit. It may not be what you're trying to do. It may not be the audience that you even want to talk to.
Right.
And understand. I just think that people just, like, oh, I think podcasts going to make me rich. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. But it's a great way to help. It's a great way to get your message out there. But there also has to be the dialogue. It has to be a good dialogue, and it has to be a fit. Yes. And I would say anybody is that you just have to do your homework. And if you're not willing to do the homework, then maybe podcasting isn't for you.
Right. It's like when you're applying for a job, you're not just going to apply to every single job under the sun. You're going to look to see if it's something that you're interested in, that you think would be a good fit for you. So it's the same thing with podcasting. Like, just take a minute to look and see. And if you're just pitching yourself, if you're just trying to get on a podcast to just put your brand out there, put yourself out there, not add any value to people, well, there are plenty of podcasts for that. You just need to find that type of podcast.
Well, and then also realize that, you're going to get people who say, I can get you on the 1%. I can get you on the 1%, the top 1%. Well, that top 1% is probably not the people that you want to reach. It might be.
Right.
But there's something to say about the small podcasts because it's more intimate.
Yes.
They're people listen because they want to listen. It's not just because it's the latest, greatest thing. And be okay. Like, I have people say, oh, if it's not this, I'm not going to be on it. That's just stupid.
Right.
I mean, I love relationships. I love meeting people. I'm not ever going to turn a client away because it's what, they're going to be saying, oh, because I'm not the top coach or whatever. Right. It's like, I don't want somebody to come to me because, well, you're the top coach. That's absolutely not. I want somebody to come with me because they say, hey, you are Amy. And I will say this, even if you are somebody like I use the platform Fast Way to Fat Loss, even if you're like, well, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm with this company, I'm a 1099. you're still a business person and you still can go on a podcast. I'll bet most of you don't even know what the fastest way to fat loss is. And so there you're not going like, well, I know this person is the corporate. I know this person. I know this person. No, there's my clients sign up because they heard me, they resonated with me, they're signing up with me. Then they're going to figure out what the fastest way to fat loss is because that's the platform I use. But even if you think like this won't work because, whatever you do, it probably will. If you like to talk and you're passionate about your business and helping people, that will come across.
Yes. Yes, it will. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I have enjoyed talking health with you, talking about like just how to pitch yourself in different social media platforms. This has just been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share about anything that we've talked about today, or something new that you just thought of that you'd like to share before we go?
Let me share this. So
Okay.
I know this is an entrepreneur call. I know this is probably mostly busy women who are like, how the heck do I get my health and fitness in check? So how about I give you a free 5-day meal guide that will kind of summarize the things I talked about. And it also will give you some recipes that you can try out. That might be kind of quick, that will give you a plan. Because remember, we said about plan, you need a plan.
Yes.
And so if you go to my website, www.amykwilson.com, so that's amykwilson.com, and you can send me a message and put MODCO, MODCO, I will send you that free 5-day guide.
Okay, awesome.
And if you have questions about podcasts or anything like that, or nutrition, I'm always willing to chat. I love to talk.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I'm definitely going to make sure that I link that in the show notes, and I'm going to go and get mine because I'm trying to change my eating habits and make plans for that. So I'm definitely going to get mine. Can you tell everyone where they can find you at?
The best thing is go to my website. It's www.amykwilson.com because it has all my links to my socials, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Okay. That's just the easiest way because it's really hard sometimes to find people on social media.
I agree with that. Yes. Even like if you're typing in exactly like what they say their name is, I'm like, well, this is what it said. And so I'm sitting there squinting and trying to compare. So, okay, cool.
So amykwilson.com is just the easiest way. You go there and you're like, oh, here's Instagram. Oh, here's TikTok. Here's YouTube. So,
okay, cool. I will definitely link that into the show notes as well. So, Amy, thank you so much for this conversation. I have enjoyed it. And I hope, before we go, where are you from? Where are we talking to you from?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the MODCO podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone you think will enjoy it. Make sure you hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other show recommendations. So you all know that I run on coffee, and so does the show. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, and chat soon.